Good afternoon, Craig from Prime Ag here. This afternoon, we're going to talk about the crop insurance prices for 2025 for corn and soybeans. As we move into the first week of November here, our prices were set for the harvest price for both corn and soybeans. Taking the average price during the average closing price during the month of October for November soybeans and December corn. As we look back, on the spring price for corn was 470 and the fall price or the harvest price of corn was 422. Our price was down about 10% on the corn side. When you look at soybeans, we had a spring price of 1054. We had a harvest price of 1035. So our price was down about 2%. As we look into this here on this next page, we're going to talk about ECO. ECO is a newer program that, most producers bought, and we were pretty high, thought it was a good value for customers to buy also. So when you look at this chart here, we're going to have corn payments for ECO. And what we're going to do is we're going to base it off a 200 bushel county yield or the target a county expected yield. And then we're going to look at actual harvest yield was actually 200 and the harvest price was 422. So when you look at this chart, if your county had expected 200 and it averaged 200 and we had a 422 harvest price, we're expecting a payment of about $49 an acre, for your ECO acres. So if your harvest yields are above that, the payments probably are not going to kick in for that. When we move into this, looking at our final thoughts on this, on the ECO, I mean, we really thought it was a good idea, to buy it this last year. And going forward, the subsidy is actually going to go up from 65 to 80%. So it is something guys should look into again for the 2026 year. On our final thoughts here, if your county corn yields are at or below expected, your county yields, there will be a payment for corn and for soybeans also. That is if your yields are below the expected county, yield, you'll probably have a payment. If your county corn yields are 5% above the expected county yields, you will not be getting a payment on the corn side of it. On the county, if your corn yields would have to be below 8% in order to collect on a 95%, ECO on your soybeans. If you'd like something more specific based on what your county is and your county targets were, don't be afraid to get a hold of us. We all hope you're having a good harvest. And, if you're still got some harvesting to go, good luck with finishing that up. If you have any questions on anything, just let us know. As always, thanks for following.